Alright, welcome back to the garage, everyone. Yeah, we've got our job cut out for us today. We're going to call this future me, or future Mike, that is. So we're going to jump in here at the beginning of the video with some fairly detailed explanations on what you're about to see and what is about to transpire. Initially, I went into this thing with thinking that I'm going to renew the timing chain and the timing chain tensioning devices and slide rails and whatnot, and that I was going to simply remove the timing chain cover to do all of this work. As I dug further and further into it, I realized that the task at hand was not as simple as one might think. So let's dive into the service manual and let's just see what this is all about. So what was the task at hand? Renew the timing chain. How hard could it be? Got the factory service manual right here, or the applicable sections thereof. Section 01-210, removal and installation of the timing housing cover. What does that entail? Doing lots of stuff, which I've already done, by the way. Taking the alternator off, taking the air conditioning out, taking the power steering off the car, removing the oil damper, removing the water pump. Very simple. Step 11, remove the oil pump. Okay. What's the big deal? Section 18-210, loosen the oil pan, upper half on two-piece oil pans, or basically remove the oil pan if it's a one-piece. It refers you then to procedure 18-210, removal and installation of the oil pump. Step 1, remove oil pan lower half. That's not applicable. It says on engines with a one-piece oil pan, remove oil pan as a complete unit in section 03-210, which is a typo. It's actually in 01-310. 01-310. Removal and installation of the complete oil pan. We'll just gloss over the technical details before we get into the meat of the procedure. Aha! Procedure. Removal. Step 1, remove the radiator and blah, blah, blah. We've already done that. Remove the front axle. Front axle? What does that mean? Remove the front axle. Well, anyway, let's go find that procedure. Section 33-100. Removal and installation of the front axle. Here we go. Loosen lower shock absorber suspension. No big deal. Jack up vehicle. Okay. Remove the front shock absorbers. Okay. Connect a carrying stirrup to the engine. It has a diagram of a carrying stirrup mounted to the top of the engine. Basically, it's like a huge rack that you hover over the engine and hold it. You grab it like this and hold it in the air. Loosen the hex bolts of the front engine mounting right and left. In other words, take the bolts out of the engine mounts. Separate the brake lines and brake hoses from their, fittings and whatnot. Remove the track rods. Okay, they basically disconnect the steering. I've already done that. Remove the front torsion bar. Okay, whatever. On vehicles with the following engines, 110, 15, 17, 30, 80, 615, 616, and 617, detach engine shock absorber suspension from the front axle carrier. Step 12, remove front springs. Step 13, support axle carrier with a pit lift and a cradle with supplementary member number 43-alpha. Loosen a hex bolt of the 4 rubber mounts for attaching the front axle carrier to the frame. Lower pit lift and remove the front axle. What is the front axle on an R107? That's the front axle. Otherwise known as the main subframe carrier. So while the engine is suspended from whatever apparatus that you have at your Mercedes dealer, and after you've lowered the subframe into a pit beneath the car, then you can lower the oil pan and remove it. To remove the oil pump, to remove the timing cover, to service the timing chain in its entirety, to include all of the slide rails inside the timing chain cover. Now, you can do this timing chain service. You can do the timing chain service without doing all of that, but you cannot replace the timing chain slider rails that are down inside the timing cover just above the crankshaft. This car is 52 years old. I don't know what they look like, but I can guarantee you it's not good. and they need to be replaced. Do I have a pit to lower the subcarrier? No. Do I have an engine harness that I can use to dangle the engine in the air while I do that? Well, yeah, I have an engine hoist, but you can see where this is going, right? So, yeah. In order to renew the timing chain and all of its associated bits and pieces and parts, to include the sliding rails that are just above the crankshaft that you cannot get to from the top, you have to remove the engine. So, having said all that, I stubbornly ignored what I was reading in the procedures, thinking to myself, I can find a way around this. I can find a way to do this without going here. So for the first probably 7 or 8 or 9 minutes in the video, you will see a haphazard hobbyist mechanic in his home garage stubbornly ignoring the truth as it sits in the corner and waves a red flag and says, no, no, please stop, you don't know what you're doing. Well, anyway, let's get on with the video. Let the carnage begin. Alright, we're going to continue on in our valve train disassembly, eventually. First thing I want to do is get this dipstick off. There we go. It's just in the way. It's got to go. Alright, so I guess it was wishful thinking. I need to get this transmission cooler line off next. And I had to remove the oil filter housing cover before I did that. So if you've never worked on one of these cars, then yeah, they're pretty tight quarters. Or if you ever have worked on one of these cars, I could use some tips actually. Like, I should probably get some of those ball end Allen wrenches for this, because this is going to take a little while. I guess the one saving grace is the fastener was not rusted solid and didn't break off in the block. All right, I've got the 2 brackets to the engine off. I'm going to get this hard line disconnected from where it goes into the transmission here. Got a 17, I believe it's 17. Yep, yep, that's not coming off. All right, guys, I promise there's a method to my madness here. We'll get to it here in a little bit, but right now we need to start taking the exhaust apart. I got these 2 over here done already, and I'm using this smaller saw because, well, it's easier. I got this bolt here, I broke it off, so that should be ready to come off. So let's give that a try. These bolts are so daggum rusty, it's just, you know, it just doesn't matter. All right, so that's nice and loose now. Got some clamps here. I think I may just cut those too, because they're just in a really poor state. I really didn't want to break out the carnage wheel this early in the project, but I really don't see a recourse here. There. It's a little old bitty crossover, isn't it? I don't see how I'm going to get that out of there without separating the 2 halves of the exhaust system. Man, that's a little bitty crossover. Ah, little crossover. It's not, I don't want to cut it. It's always weld a new one. Yep. A little nasty, but it's, you know, it's going to have to be cut out anyway. And my goal is to get these transmission lines out of here. But couldn't get to them for, you know, well, obvious reasons. And this one up here, this fitting right here, can't get that off. So this is what we're doing. Want to get the transmission lines off. They got to come off anyway, because lowering the oil pan with this thing in the way, it's not going to happen. Or at least I'm not going to fight it anyway. So, and we got a 17 on these fittings here, so this shouldn't, yeah, there we go. Nice and greasy, so at least it's not rusted up. And I wonder how much fluid we're going to get out when we do this. I don't know, maybe none, I don't know. Yeah, nice banjo bolt there. Let's put this in a baggie. And get the passenger side. Nice and easy, look at that. Yeah, boy, now we can just take this whole line out of here. In theory. At least we can move it out of the way when we take things apart. Let's see. Got to figure out how to snake this out of here. Little by little, getting this oil damper off of here. Only because, well, it's nice enough to not be, you know, difficult like everything else is. So I'm going to take the easy wins, you know, for now. And eventually, yeah, I think this project is, well, you know, ballooning, I think. Yeah, all right, so let me get that off of there. All right, first step to get the motor out is to disconnect the exhaust system completely, which means we disconnect the manifold from the main pipes. That's presenting a problem, as well, you know, it's to be expected, right? I think first thing I'm gonna do, Dustin's already given me a problem, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this little heat shield over this idler arm. I'm gonna get that little heat shield out of the way first, and then I'm gonna get up in here and try to get these two guys disconnected. That's my plan. Really hard to film up in here, but you know, it's pretty rudimentary. I'm just undoing some exhaust bolts, so I'll be back here in a bit with an update. All right, that went over really well. Somebody down at Mercedes, in their infinite wisdom, decided to use a bolt and a nut as opposed to simply using an embedded stud in the upper exhaust manifold. When you put a wrench on the bottom, it just spins the whole thing. And I don't see a way to get another wrench way up in there to do some work. So anyway, what's the first thing you do when you're going to pull a motor? In reality, what was the first thing I did with my Corvette? Well, I removed the steering system, and that's what I'm going to do now. So we're yanking the motor. That's happening. We are yanking this M117. I need to drop this out of the way, so that one right there probably. And then the other one on the other side here. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're going to drop all that linkage down and get it out of our way so we can pull this motor out of this car. So if I have to, I'll just get a Sawzall in up there and cut that pipe. And when we get ready to put it back together, I'll just weld it back up. No big deal. And we'll go ahead and get these cotter pins out of here. Come on out of there now, you can do it. There we go. Ain't nothing left of that. Well, at least we did something right. Well, let's see if we can get lucky here. All right, it's every bolt for himself now. I'm just mad now. I dare say this steering stabilizer is no longer functioning. I want to use this ball joint separator on this thing and see if that works. I went inside to scratch my head for a little while, and just in case this works, I wanted to get it on camera with the old cell phone here. Got a Pitman arm puller, got a little piece of sheet metal, well, some 1/4 inch stuff right there with a little divot in the middle. I use that for other things as well. But anyway, got that on top of this, and you get it, right? I'm gonna try to cobble this together and get this out of here. They make a special tool for this drag link on these cars, but it's like 400 bucks, so yeah, we're not doing that. All right, that was a fail, so I moved on to a bearing splitter from a Harbor Freight kit. So I moved it kind of cockeyed off to the side so I could get the extensions on either side of the arm here. And they're screwed into each end of the bearing splitter. got the brace here attached, and it's got a couple of nuts and washers on there. And I have our favorite piece of metal here with a small divot in the middle to hold that in place. And we got the plunging screw, for the lack of a better term, up there. So now all I got to do is figure out how to get a wrench up in there and tighten that whole affair up, and hopefully drive this drag link out of this arm. So, you know, wish me luck. All right, I got a crow's foot up there. It's a 17, and the end of this extension on my ratchet here is, it's got a little wobble end on it so you can come in at an angle. So we're going to try that. Well, you're not going to believe this. I wish I had the camera going, because I came out here after reading a bunch of stuff online, looking at different tools, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just try this. And wow, it was explosive. Holy cow, that worked. That, I'm so chuffed, as they say. It worked. I cannot believe that worked. That it's just look at that. Coming right out of there. So let's, I've been struggling with this thing all day. This car fought me at every turn. And hopefully I didn't damage this. So I was farting around with different tools and all kinds of stuff. Let's get this stuff out of here. There you go, nice and loose. Now all I've got to do is loosen that castle nut and pull her out of there. All right, now the steering linkage is out of there. I got in there with the Dremel tool, and it took about, I would probably say, an hour with a cutoff wheel and various angles and getting at it from various directions. And that one over there was pretty tough. I had to come in there from up in there. So anyway, you get it, right? So we got those bolts cut off, and we'll be able to pull this exhaust system down. So all I got to do now is the other side of the exhaust system over here on the driver's side. Yeah, I get to do that next. So yeah, we're cutting bolts. Real exciting. I'm not going to video it because, well, you know, it's just, it's not that interesting, but it needs to be done. So I'll be back. All right, I've been toiling away at this exhaust here. So get the bolt heads cut off on this driver's side. So it should be loose. Yeah, that side's loose. However, the passenger side is not. It's still readily affixed over there, so I got to tap on that one to get it to come loose. I cut this most of the way through on this side. I wanted to avoid cutting this. My mind was, this pipe here is pretty nasty, but it might be solid enough to just sand it down and paint it and reuse it, because I don't want to buy that. It'd be kind of pricey. Yes, I did cut that, but I could always weld a little piece in there. That's not a huge deal. Or I could go down to an exhaust shop and just tell them to copy this. So anyway, this middle muffler, silencer, whatever you want to call it, and the end muffler are readily available online, and they're a little, you know, pricey, but they're not horrible. So yeah, I just lopped that off. So these are just junk. They're gutted and they're trash, so they got to go. Anyway, I was going to try to save these front pipes, so we'll see how that goes. Again, because these are the most expensive parts. So that's what I'm doing right now. I got to try to get that one loose from over there, and then I'm going to try to lower this down as, well, gently as I can. So this is not anything that's video worthy, but I just need to get it done before we can move on with removing the engine. This exhaust is not exactly lightweight, so I just don't want stuff slamming onto the floor, that's all. All right, so we got that pipe off of there intact. So that's a good thing. If nothing else, it will serve as an example for an exhaust shop to recreate. I don't know how it is in Europe and other places, but in America, usually when you put exhaust on a car, if it's older, you take it to an exhaust shop and they handcraft it. Well, you don't buy exhaust pipes that are pre-bent and have them shipped. Well, you can, but more often than not, you just have a shop make it. So, but I suppose it depends on the car. All right, that was a big job. I'm glad it's done because we can move on with other things that aren't quite so nasty. All right, a number of you viewers have expressed concern for moi's safety in the old R107, specifically with regards to the subframe lower control arm mounts. There was a recall in the early 70s or mid 70s or 80s, or hell, it was sometime, I don't know. Anyway, apparently there was a manufacturer defect. Yes, Mercedes made a defect. So the lower control arm mounts, all you had was this ear here. It would hang down and the lower control arm would mount to it. And they were prone to cracking and breaking, and the lower control arm would fall off the car, and well, you know, bad things happen. A number of viewers expressed concern in the previous two videos for me to get busy and check this. And I've been doing some research online and to see what the fix was, and they came out with a kit. Basically what they did was they welded in additional metal. I decided to get my wire wheel out. I think this car has been repaired. This just doesn't look, I don't know, it just doesn't look factory. It looks like it was done later on. I don't know, you guys tell me, is this the kit that the dealers would fix the problem with? This little welded area right here, while the transmission fluid drips into my ear. That's awesome. And over here, you can see right here, you see that little, no, that's a wire, that was a wire welder. Somebody used a MIG, so I thought it was stick, but they didn't. There's a little wire left there. This has been welded up, and looks like there's extra metal here. So, all in all, I think this car has had the repair. I suppose you could put more metal across here, but you need to bow it out to accommodate for the movement of the lower control arm. I don't know, you guys comment down below. Let me know what you think. Is this the way they were and they still need to be repaired? Or is this the repair? Is this the fix for that manufacturer's defect for the subframe? Comment down below and let me know. I'd be very, very curious. But from what I'm seeing, that looks pretty good. So regardless, the entire subframe is going to come out of the car after we pull the engine, because all the bushings and everything are going to get replaced because, yeah, all right. All right, let's move on. All right, removal installation of the engine, section 01-30, factory service manual. Let's see if we're doing this thing right. Drain the coolant, done. Air conditioning, remove that, done. Completely remove the exhaust system, done. On model 107, force drag link off, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, steering system is completely removed, done. Suck reservoir of power steering pump, empty. Complete. Disconnect all the power steering, it's already done. It's gone. Coolant systems removed, that's done. Pull the cable for the TDC transmitter for the diagnostics socket. I'll do that later. I want to do stuff underneath right now. Remove the engine shocks. Now we'll do that a little bit later. Suspend engine at eyes. I don't know why they're putting that step ahead of everything else. Unscrew fastening bolts on engine mounts. Nope, not gonna do that. Nope. You gotta do stuff back here first. Why are they, I don't know why they, these manuals, I tell you what. Read, let's see, remove rear engine carrier. No, that's on a different, that's model 116. Loosen clamping nut of universal shaft. That's why we're back here. And I didn't know what a clamping nut was on a universal shaft. I know what the universal shaft is, but let's take a look at that in the other section. Removal installation of the propeller shaft 41-50. Clamping nut is right there in that center carrier bearing. It's right there in number 3. You gotta loosen that rascal. This is for people who've never done this before on this car, so, other people, they're like bored probably. Loosen the clamping nut on the universal shaft. Disconnect the universal shaft on the transmission. Loosen the connections on the transmission. All right, so Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Loosen clamping nut of universal shaft. Well, how do you do that? Let's go over here to the propeller shaft. I love how car companies call it a propeller shaft as opposed to a drive shaft. So the propeller shaft procedure is remove the exhaust system. Done. Unscrew the shielding plate. Must be that fellow right there. And then we do other stuff. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's take this plate off, see what's underneath there. All right, got myself a new toy. Little impact driver. So figured it was time to up my game here and get the right socket. And 8mm. Please tell me they're just little, little self-tapping screws. And this little guy here is more than adequate to, I got it on max. I don't suppose there's really a need for all that. Yeah. There's the tunnel. Up in there. There it is. There's the clamping nut. We'll get you up in there so you can take a look at this thing. All right, there we are. That's our central carrier bearing, which I'm sure will probably have to be replaced. Yeah, that rubber in there is completely trashed. And there is the clamping nut right there. That guy right there. Got to loosen that to loosen the drive shaft a little bit. So yeah, I see surface rust, but I don't see catastrophic holes. So that's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, it's rusty, but you know, we can deal with it. Hello. Yeah, let's take a gander here at the drive shaft tunnel. Propeller shaft tunnel, excuse me. So, nothing we can't handle. Well, being forced to drive your old W126 Mercedes over to Harbor Freight to buy special tooling to work on your R107 is a sad state of affairs, to be sure, but we'll work through it somehow. I've got to head over to the big Harbor Hobo, whatever you want to call it, store. Got to pick up some big wrenches, the clamping nut. The instructions say loosen the clamping nut about 2 turns. I'm guessing that will allow the drive shaft to slip backward a little bit, and then you undo the 3 bolts at the rubber disc on the transmission, and you can disconnect the drive shaft from, or excuse me, propeller shaft from the transmission and let it dangle downward, so that, you know, to facilitate removal of the engine. Looks like it's probably going to be 42, 43, 44, 45, I don't know, in the mid to low 40s millimeters. A big old wrench. Let me tell you what, the biggest one I had was a 32. I think I can grab the drive shaft. The drive shaft has a hex on it, and I believe I can grab that with my great big pair of channel lock pliers, and get a wrench on the clamping nut, and you get it. So yeah, that's my plan. Headed over to Harbor Freight. I'll be back here, and well, before you know it. That's a 41. That seems to go on the drive shaft hex. At the end of the drive shaft there's a hex. That 41 fits that. Probably be a 40 as well, but because there's a little looseness in here, but it's not a lot of force involved, so it'll be okay. The 45 is the next step up in the kit. It wasn't big enough. It needs to be like 46 or 47. So I took the angle grinder and just ground down one edge of the wrench to make it fit the clamping nut. So that's what we got, and yeah, there we go. We moved it. How about that? So, am I moving it the right direction? I have no idea. But it said do it 2 turns, and this is probably going to take me, oh, I don't know, an hour? All right, so after the first half a turn or so, it got really simple. So at this point, I don't really need the wrench. Purely academic. It said about 2 turns, so. And you can probably see some threads right there. That's 2 or 3 threads exposed, or 2 or 3 turns rather. So That's what the manual said do. So I guess we're loosening it up or making room or something for the drive shaft to come down. So our next target is in there. We have to disconnect the drive shaft from the rubber disc. All right, next step is to take this transmission mount down. We got the transmission suspended with a transmission jack, so we're all good. I'm gonna have to take that cover off right there. It's in the way. Or we could just bend it a little bit. Yeah, there we go. I believe these connect the mount to the transmission. Seems to be, is that in 2 pieces? Interesting. Not sure. These bolts go into the mount above, I think. Let's see, I'm not sure. Let me put my hand up in there and see what's going on with that. I think it's in 2 pieces. I'm gonna put that one back. Wish I knew what I was doing. Let's go over here. I'm a little confused by this. I don't know if this is in 2 pieces or 3 pieces. There seems to be a stair step here, and here. Is this piece separate from this piece and this piece? I have no idea. These two are the transmission mount itself, it appears. Only way to know for sure is to take the daggone thing off the car and figure it out. I've got all the bolts removed from that bit right there. I'm going to see if that moves, just out of curiosity. There's an exercise in, well, let's not take everything out of the car if we don't have to. So there's your, I guess that goes there, lower part of the transmission mount. Still got rubber in it. Pretty pliable. Okay, let me, man, that's nasty. Holy cow. Yeah, boy. Let's disconnect the drive shaft next. I'm gonna get this down. I suddenly realized in order to make it a lot easier for me to disconnect all the stuff on the transmission, this being out of the way would be a lot easier. All right, we got 19. Hopefully we can get lucky and this will be easy. Oh, no, gonna need a pipe, I guess, or some bigger muscles, one or the other. Oh yeah, boy. Let's go ahead and spin it around and break them all loose here. Let's do that. Oh man. Oh, it's gonna hurt tonight. Getting old, Harris. What was that Eastwood said? Clint Eastwood said? He says he gets up every morning and he doesn't let the old man in. Neither am I. Oh. All right, now we can go get the thingamajig. Just precisely what does it take to remove a drive shaft from this damn car? A pry bar? Clearly I don't remember how to disconnect the drive shaft from a Mercedes. I haven't done it in years. There we go. It's got a little pin in there. That's all, Harris. Just a little pin in the back of the transmission. And that's all we had to do was disconnect the drive shaft. We're done. We're not messing with that anymore. We're pulling the motor, the drive shaft and everything in the back of the car. We'll save that for a later date. All right, let's move on and see if we can't disconnect these other odds and ends on the transmission, the linkage and a couple pipes and things like that, because, you know, when we pull it out of there, they've got to be disconnected. So this looks like the vacuum modulator. It's got a hard line going up top, so into a banjo bolt here. And wherever this goes up top, we'll disconnect it up there and pull it out of the car, I guess. Sound like a plan? What's next? There's a wire back there. Not sure what that goes to. Yeah, it's an electrical connector with a flat head screw. Let's get that out of there. I just love flat head screws. All right. And let's see. We'll put that in the transmission bag. All right, got some kind of a shift linkage here. Not sure what it is. Don't really care. I think that's probably about a 10 millimeter. It's encrusted in grease. So I'm gonna get a socket wrench up in there and get that off of there next. Come on over there now. Don't give me a hard time. Come on over there. There's nothing holding you. What are you doing? Yeah, I pulled the bolt out. Maybe that'll do it. Of course. It was in a bind or something. All right, that's done. All right, looks like the speedometer cable. There's actually a line in the service manual that actually covers all of this. It just simply says, remove everything that's attached to the transmission and the engine. Have you ever disconnected a speedometer from an M117 in transmission before? Nope, never done it. Whew. Maybe I just need to, there we go, man up and yank it out of there. That's nasty. Yep. Sure enough, just a speedo cable. Looks like it's got a little rubber seal in there that's dried up and whatnot. We'll clean that up real nice before we put it back on the car. Man, that bolt right there is, goodness gracious. Looks like it's been gnawed by a saber-toothed tiger. I'm going to take the shift linkage off on the driver's side next. All right, let's see. Another 10 mil. Get a little stubby in here to catch that. Let's see what this does. Let's see. Is that going to come off of there? I have no idea. There's a little screw right here that you can't get to, and this lever is connected to this other little piece there. So all of that's got to slide out of the transmission like that. And there's not enough room to do that. That means we get to fight that idiotic little clip up there, which is what I didn't want to do, and the whole reason why I was going to do it this way. Let me see if I can get lucky. It's all rusted. I'll just bend the son of a bitch and get it out of there. Got me some 11-inch needle nose up at the Hobo Freight Store. Let's see if we can just break that clip off, because it's all really, really rusty. So yeah, how about that? Won't be reusing that. Okay. I guess I could put that bolt back in there. Got to find the nut that I lost. Yeah, let's see. Is there anything else connected to the transmission? There is a wiring harness right there. Ah, that's the computer harness. So connected to the shifter up there is the computer harness. It's right there. So I'm gonna get up in there and gingerly disconnect that, and I believe that's the last thing we have on the transmission. All right, I got the connector off the transmission there. Tried my best not to be too aggressive, but it's pretty brittle right in there. So yeah, cracked it. But the wires and the connectors are just fine. The outer casing of that is well, you can see the state of affairs. So that's where it went, right up in there. You can see where it plugged in. Pretty hard to get to. I can clean that up. Epoxy that's specifically designed for plastic works well for this sort of thing. Or I may find a used harness or connectors on eBay or something. So I'm not, little things like this, they just don't bother me. I can fix it. So I think that does it for transmission external connectivity. I think it's time to get up top. We'll lower the car, get up top, and see what our next step is. Okay, we're back up top. We're going to start cleaning out a few things here. I want to get these tanks out of the way so I can get in there to work on that shock and the engine shock, that is, and the engine mount. It came out nicely. Is it going to be that easy? Hey, how about that? All right, we have a very special overflow tank extradition procedure. There we go. Hey, how about that? But hey, look at that. We found a washer that went to something. it's like an archaeological dig. That's what I wanted to get to right there. That's the engine shock top mount right there. Pretty nasty. I think I'm gonna get a vacuum cleaner in here next. We'll put it in the easy one first, it's not rusted out, and see if we can get it out. If we can't get it out, the other ones ain't gonna come out, and I'll just cut them. All right, we got lucky on that one. And I got one of the back ones loosened with this set of vice grips. Let's see if we can go for 2 here. Yeah, I may have to cut 2 of them, just for grins. Put the Big Mama on the lowest setting. Came right out of there. This is a number 3 size Phillips bit. Nope, that show ain't coming out now. I have to drill it out. Let me get the drill. Let's see if this bit's sharp enough here. There we go. Broke the head of it off. Awesome. Let's see. That part's pretty rusty anyway. It'll have to be done like that, I guess. There we go. That battery tray is pretty daggum rusty. Depending on how pricey they are, I may elect to repair it. I don't know. We'll make up our mind later on. And that's what you got back there. So a few mice were carrying in nuts and what all. So keep in mind, this basically was a barn car. Been in a old warehouse slash barn for many, many years. As far as I can tell, it was last driven in 1999. So yeah. A number of viewers have recommended taking a look at the bulkhead. I've already taken a look down inside here where the blower is. There's a little surface rust here, and the blower motors were solid, so I don't think we're going to find anything. I'm going to take the blowers out, and I'm going to take the bore scope and go down in there just to see. And I'm going to take these. I'm going to take these cowl vents out. I'm going to get all down in there. This little heat shield or whatever it is, it's going to get in the way. I guarantee it. Little 6mm self tapper there, and it slips into a little clip right there. So now this is the top of the shock. Hey, Rick's blowing leaves. A little more juice. How about all of it? Yeah, the shock is turning. That's what the book said would happen. I don't think that shock is good. I think that shock is done. So, I may just cut it out. I don't know. Normally I don't opt for carnage, but this is done. This is not good. So, I can get a motor anywhere. It doesn't even have to be for this car. The bracket bolts are just gone. There's no way to get to them, so I'm just gonna break it off. There we go. Yeah. You see the guts of the motor have rusted up and they've protruded out and exploded the plastic. Yeah, that's done. All right, now we can cut our shock out. Is that going to shoot sparks into the motor? Of course. I don't really want that. Let me go get something else to cover up the motor more readily. All right. Man. That'll work. All right, we got that disconnected. I'll have to get some channel lock pliers in there and see if I can't wiggle that out. All right, so I got some vice grips attached to the shock there, and there is the nut back in there, which you probably cannot see. Way back in there. I'm going to get a 10 millimeter and slowly loosen it and try to get that shock out of there. And then after I'm done with that, I think the next thing will be to remove the wiring harness from the starter. I was kind of tempted to start this before I started working on the shock. The wiring harness for the starter is right here, so that's going to have to get out of the way. It's going to have to come off anyways before we pull this thing out of the car. So, okay, I'm going to remove this shock, and then I'm going to remove that wiring harness, and then I'm going to remove the bolt on this engine mount, and then we'll go to the driver's side. All right, up there working on the starter. You can probably see right in there where the two little power leads go in. Took me about 45 minutes to get those two off, and about an hour to get the two bracket bolts off. That little bracket holds against the starter and holds those two wires. So yeah, all I got to do is get one more off. That's the big main cable up there, and I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm going to keep at it. All right, we're going to fast forward. I've already removed the engine shocks and both of the engine mount bolts. The shocks were, well, they were a nightmare. I had to cut off the tops of both sides and use vice grips and get in there and tighten up the shaft to keep it from turning, and I slowly undid the bottom nut and wiggled that stuff out of there. The engine bolts down below, there's two 19 millimeter hex head bolts. They came loose quite simply actually, and the little covers and dust covers and what all that associated between the mount and the shock, they came right out. So did that on both sides. Right now, the only thing holding this engine in this car is some wires, maybe a couple of vacuum hoses, maybe a heater hose, and that linkage right there. Hallelujah. So right now we're going to start disconnecting all the remaining stuff. I'm going to start with the engine wiring harness. The engine hoists are right here and here. There's so much junk on the top of these motors. It's like staring at a bowl of spaghetti. You just don't know what's what and where things are going and just what the hell is going on. It's just a nightmare. I'd like to think that maybe we could, when we put this thing back together, could we not simplify some of this stuff? All right, let's go ahead and get this ECU harness off of here. I guess first thing we'll do is get rid of some of these tie wraps. Make things a little easier. Did I get rid of them all already? Let's see. There's one there. Wow. Yep. Electrical connectors, they're difficult. Got a little zigzag soft tooth piece of plastic there. What is that digging into my skin? What in the hell? You just need to go away. Whew, wow. Electrical connectors, they just weld themselves in place over time. I'm trying not to break stuff. There we go. You just got to take your time with this old electrical stuff. It's just, I think the wires and everything are fine. I've got one up here on the front. Something's going around up here on the front. Is that the wiring harness for the injectors on that side of the vehicle? Yes, they are. Let's see, that looks like it's just a squeeze and pull. Yep, there we go. That was easy. Nice and clean in there. Hallelujah. What about you? Are you going to be easy? There we go. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get some tape and mark those. I know You could probably figure it out, but I'm going to mark them anyway. I'll be right back. I don't like guesswork, even though it might be obvious. Of course, the engine hoist brace is in the way. There we go. Number 3, it's such good sense. It's like the numbers are cylindered. Yeah, the numbers are cylindered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, but the firing order is 1, 5, 4, 8, 6, 3, 7, 2. Apparently, according to AI. So, well, that one's going to be a challenge. There we go. Okay, let's see where we're at now with this. We got, we have a main ground harness here. Let me get that off of there. Probably a 13, yep, just like everything else is. Long bolt. And it's a, holy cow, that is a long bolt. It's so tight I have to screw it out. Come on, get out of there. Goodness gracious. All right, so we'll just put your butt back in place for now. Okay. That bolt ain't falling out on its own, I guarantee you. All right, are we done on this side? I do believe we are. Let's work on the other side now. All right, 5. You're coming off so the engine can stay alive. Okay, we got another little sensor connection here. Not sure what that's for. We shall look at the diagram for all the good it'll do us. Have you guys seen the diagram from the factory service manual for this car? It looks like they gave a rat some methamphetamines and then got him drunk. And then he took a dump on some construction paper and he used his tail to draw the diagram. That's what it looks like. Of course, I know the factory service manual diagram is a copy of 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 a copy. And that the original one is probably a tad bit better. Now, I'm referring to the manual that I downloaded online for it, and it wasn't much money. It was like $35 or $30 or something. From emanualonline.com, some website like that, I think it was. Anyway, what they do is they download the manual in I think it's a Windows 95 or Windows 98 virtual machine, and you fire up the virtual machine on your PC, and it runs inside the virtual machine. Because the application was designed, I don't know, 20 years ago to display the service manual. It's too old to run on modern stuff, so they use a VM to display it. So, all right, sounds like the window air conditioner decided that I was getting too hot. And, oh man, that feels nice. I have a forehead sweat bead detector built into the air conditioner. What's next? We got this pipe, that can stay there. This is the map sensor vacuum hose. That went to the map sensor as well. This can just stay on top of the engine. Not really interested in that. This is the brake hose vacuum. That can stay on top of the engine. I think the only thing I have to do now is stuff in this back area over here. So I've got a heater hose over there. I've already clipped this one, and probably just clip the other one as well. I hate to do that, but it looks like the inside they were fine, but the ends are just so old and fouled up that you can't get it off there and reuse it. You have to buy another one. So let's say, while I'm here, while I'm on this side, let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and disconnect the accelerator pedal linkage real quick. Okay, so I've got this rod coming out of the dashboard here, and it's got a pivot point down to the accelerator pedal. It comes over here to the intake manifold. Anyway, we'll figure it out in a minute. Let's get the little pry bar here, and there we go. Got that one out of the way, so that was easy. Now the accelerator pedal doohickey here. Figure out how to get it out of the car, Harris. I don't know how to do it. Well, oh yeah, so it's got a little piece of metal there. So yeah, I get it. Okay, I gotta take that little thing off, and then, all right, I'll be right back. It looks like an 8mm. Okay, so that, okay, we'll just leave it like that for right now. And we'll put that up there. And let's see. Oh, come on, give me a break. There we go. Oh, that was easy. I guess that's just a pivot point back there. Let's get this thing out of here because this is going to cause us a headache. There we go. And we'll put our little bolt back in place. And I've moved my parts bench over there that was next to the garage door. I moved it over to the other side of the shop, so I had to make room for the engine hoist, so I'll show you that here in a little bit. All right, let me go ahead and put this on the bench and we'll move on. I'm not sure what that goes to. It looks like it goes way down there to the transmission. Probably something to do with the, just, you know, communicating engine load to the transmission. So anyway, that's disconnected. What is that? Is that going to come off easily? I wonder if it's a twisty. Let's try that. There we go. Kind of like a little bullet connector, just a single. That's a temperature sending unit. Probably a metal. The Cadillac has metal temperature sensors. That may be what that is. Just guessing. I really don't know. Got a vacuum line here. We need to pull it off the engine back there. Let's see. So we'll get in here with that little guy. We're getting there. There we go. Yep, just a vacuum line, no big deal. What is left? The fuel lines come in from over there, they're disconnected. So the fuel rails and the injectors, they can stay there. I think the only thing left is this heater hose and getting the electrical harness out of the way, so. Free. I knew there was something. There's a little thing right here. See that right there? You guys can't see that. All right, that was a vacuum line. I clipped off part of the metal part, and that's just basically just an open line. And I compressed the little metal nipple, and I took it over to the bench and lopped it off with a hacksaw. So it's all better now. I feel better. I hate breaking stuff unnecessarily. So, and I'm sure I missed something. Found me another victim. Well, actually, I loosened that earlier, didn't I? I guess this is the, I don't know what this is. It goes over to the coil. How does that even work?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Transmitter position thingy? I don't know what that is. Couldn't tell you. But right now, let's go ahead and get the engine hoist wheeled into place. Right after that, I'm going to get these bolts taken out of this hood right here, and I'm going to get some rope, and I'm going to tie this hood up to the rafters in the shop and let it basically get straight up out of the way, and then that'll be good enough. I'm not going to take it off of the car. I just don't want to deal with that right now. All right, I got some rope tied up through the rafters, and I got a piece of wood over there holding the hood up. So I've already got the passenger side hinge disconnected, so I'm going to go for the driver's side here. I'm not messing with the springs. I don't know why I put a ratchet there. That's not a nut. That's a permanently set in place. All right, the GoPro is, well, it's being a GoPro, and shut off there momentarily. So, all right, the hood is free. All we got to do now is we're going to rope it up into the air. Wish me luck. Not sure this is going to work. Oh, that son of a gun. That son of a gun is heavy. And I ain't lying. That's... Ooh, Lord of mercy. Careful now, you can't go too high. Figured that one out real quick. We are, you start eating into your cowl trim We'll let that back off a little bit. Yeah, we dented it a little bit. Yeah, I'm just gonna back off a little more. Yeah, all right, that'll be good. All right, I'm gonna tie this off over here, then we'll get this engine hoist in place. All right, I had to raise the front of the cart with a floor jack and put some 2x10 pieces underneath the wheels because, well, the cherry picker does not like low suspension. That's what you get. Accidents happen, especially when you're an idiot. There we go. Not paying attention. He's not paying attention. He doesn't know what he's doing. All right, now, could very well be that we'll have to remove the hood entirely. That could very well be. Yeah. Yeah, the whole idea behind this was initially that I would be able to take this hood vertical. I suppose I still could if I'm able to take the cowl vents off, and it exposes that gap there maybe. But if you're going to go through that trouble to take those off, you might as well just take the hood off. All right, here we go. I got some highly dense foam insulation for walls and stuff in place there. So we're going to start, see how well we do here. Those over there came loose fine. This one's got the ground strap on it, and it's some green corrosion on it. There we go. So yesterday I took some white paint, a white paint pen, and I drew all around the hinge area to mark it. So when we put it back together in 8 years, we'll know right where to put it. There we go. All right, all four of them are loose. Now all I gotta do is take them out and pray that this whole affair doesn't just topple and smash the windshield and all that other kind of stuff. I'm really paranoid about stuff like this. Anyways, got the rope, got the foam, it'll be okay. Yeah, a lot of good that ground was doing. Very corroded. I'm just making this stuff up. I'll probably start to see some movement here shortly. Crash! All right, now the foam is doing its job. That's free, that's moving. And I got the rope holding it up, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I put a lot of thought into this, by the way. I slept on it. Let's see what this does. Put a lot of faith in this cheap Chinese rope. Seems to be working though. Alright, so let's take this hinge, which conveniently tucks in there like that. I mean, that's really well thought out. That's pretty nice actually. Very well thought out. Congratulations, Stuttgart. Set that there like that. Set that there like that. All right, let's lower it down. So the pivot point is simply going to be on the foam. And let's see, how much stress is on that? Nothing at all, because all the stress is on the rope. And the only thing between crashing is attributable to me. So we've got our rope wrapped around the trusses in the top of the shop here. I don't have any sophisticated stuff here. It's just all wood and block and tackle and all that kind of stuff. So whoopsie. Well, let's fix that. I've got to paint the car anyway, so who cares? Let's find out what happened there. I'm not sure how that... It must have been corroded to the hinge arm, and it kind of popped loose, maybe. 52-year-old seasoned paint. Didn't do a damn thing to it. Hilarious. Oh, I know why that happened. I'm a dumbass. Because I didn't have the rope is not centered to the car. It's on the rafter that's on the left side. So the rope had a tendency to want to pull the hood that way. Okay, that's fine. That's on me. Well, anyway, you see the predicament I'm in. Let me get another piece of foam. We'll set it underneath there. Actually, so that one didn't even work hardly. So there we go. Yeah, cool. All right. So really, all I need now is a helper. And a little later on, I'll grab this and we'll put it on top of the car. That's where I'm going to store it. So, all right, I'll be back. All right, I've got the cherry picker in place and got the hood sitting over there on the bar stools. And right now, got to figure out how we want to connect everything up. My microphone is over there. The battery is low on it, so it's on charge. So hopefully you can hear me all right. Yeah. Need a little more chain. I'm going to have to fiddle with this for a little while until I get it just right. Now these are the main engine lifting points back here from what I gather. Clearly they're equidistant between the front of the engine and the tail shaft of the transmission, at least in my mind. That's what I see. And this lifting point here is simply to facilitate pivoting the engine in some fashion. Elongate that chain a little bit, and then we'll use this back and forth guy right here. This is the engine leveler. We'll use that to implement the Mercedes 45-degree angle that they dictate in the service manual. Well, let's just see how well we do here. So I'm going to take it nice and easy. Start with most of the stress on the back. Have to move in a little bit, I think. That's as far in as we can go. Picking up the car. That's what I figured. Oh, I know what we're doing. We're alleviating the weight of the engine from the car, so the car is coming up. Well, the motor mounts are disconnected, car. Why are you not happy? Give it a friendly reminder of what precisely the game plan is here. Yeah. It's free of the engine mount. Maybe it just needed a little coaxing. Something's not right. How many transmission mounts are there? The transmission mount is disconnected from the transmission. Is there a second transmission mount? I don't know. Looks like I'm crawling underneath the car for a sanity check. Alright, I went underneath the car and removed the transmission pan that was holding the transmission up, so that's the reason why it's tilted back now. So let's see what it'll do now. That's what it took. Apparently it was kind of in there like that with that transmission mount in there. The transmission mount's got to come out. Pucker factor high! Pucker factor high! Pucker factor high! Alright, so I got my oil pan past the cross member down there. Because that oil pan sticks out like, you guys ever seen that movie called Swing Blade? Yeah. Ain't got no gas in it. Yeah. Like the oil pan sticks out like that. So we got to get it past the cross member. So we've done that. Let's do a little upward travel now. Man, this thing's tight. It's going to be a while. All right, slowly but surely, get my angles and everything just right. So, woo! Look out now! Look out! What the hell was that all about? You aren't even supposed to be connected to anything. Why are you giving me a heartache? It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel. All right. I'm going to have to leave this video right here, folks. I apologize for that, but let me tell you where we are. So I have spent the last hour trying to get this engine out of this car, and I've got two main obstacles that are in the way. One is the steering gear and one is the starter. Let me explain my thinking here. If you read through the factory service manual, it says that you should elevate the engine and transmission in a 45-degree rake in order to extract it from the vehicle. With my setup, the way I have it right here, I don't really have a comfortable way to do that here, not with this car. There's a lot of stuff going on. One of the things is my engine hoist. The beams coming across here are too high and they won't get underneath the suspension. So I had to put the front wheels on a 2x10 piece of wood to elevate it slightly. That's one piece of it. So that means I'm already up this way a little bit. Now granted, this can go up quite a ways, but setting this at a 45-degree rake, and that is severe, to extract this out of the vehicle, in my opinion, is, well, you know, it can be done, clearly, because the book says it can be done, but I do not want to comfortably take that on. And I'll tell you why. The steering gear in these cars is the main reason why they want you to elevate this engine at that particular angle. So the steering gear sticks way out and it interferes with the bell housing on the transmission. If you just try to kind of lift it up a little bit and then just pull it straight out, that bell housing will hit the steering gear and you're not going anywhere. So what they're having you do is to move the end of the bell housing, or the edge of the bell housing, down and under and make an arc underneath the steering gear and go around it basically, and then lift the engine up. So basically this thing's going to go like this and up out like that, which is pretty typical for an engine extraction anyway, but it's a little more extreme with this car because this thing is tight, man. It is tight. So the other thing is the starter interferes with the idler arm on the steering system. So to get past it, you have to wiggle the engine a little bit, which is not a huge deal. But the main thing here is the steering gear. Now, having said all that, I looked at the steering gear on this car. It's a big, huge, humongous pile of rust. Yeah, so I'm sure the inside is probably okay, but the outside is just wasted. Having said all that, I think I'm going to stop right here, spend the next couple of days, and jack this up, take the wheel off, yank the steering gear out of this car. That means taking the lines loose, and I'll have to tap it off at the end of the steering column. But all that is going to take me a little bit of time, and I'm up against the clock because we're taking a little bit of a family extended weekend vacation this weekend. So I don't want to really interfere with any of that, if you know what I mean. So I think I'm going to leave it right here. I really wanted to get this thing out of the car for this video, but I think we're gonna have to wait one more video. Having said all that, I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy driving your classic Mercedes.